episode 12 of Pause for Peace. And this episode is being released to you in the early days of what is called in the Christian household, the season of Lent. My name is Jule. I pastor Hillwood Presbyterian Church USA, located on the west side of Nashville, Tennessee, and I am glad that you are joining me to pause in the middle of all of your busyness to just stop for a few moments. Today, I want to share with us what I think is a wonderful way of stopping, of taking stock, especially in this season that is called Lent in the Christian household. So, a little bit about this season of Lent. Historically, it has been known as a time of preparation. So think for just a minute about a very skilled athlete, somebody on the top of their game, perhaps a marathon runner or a tennis player or a track star, right? Somebody who's preparing to jump the highest jump possible in the high jump. Any one of these athletes needs to undergo an intense season of preparation. In fact, as we move closer to the moment of competition, we have to be sure that our bodies, our minds, our spirits are all set for what's going to come. The moment they say go, the moment the first ball is served on the court, the moment that it is your time to focus on uniting your body with your breath, that you might spring forth into the air and the high jump and the highest jump you've ever been able to do. Athletes prepare, they go through intense workouts. They even stretch themselves beyond their sport, if you will, to develop muscles and mentality that will carry them throughout their competition. So if they're a runner, they might do some yoga. If they are a tennis player, they might make sure that they are lifting some weights. If they are a high jumper, maybe they're going to swim for a little bit and to really work on kicking those legs. In this spiritual season of Lent, this time of preparation in the Christian household, we are invited into a variety of spiritual practices. We are encouraged to be finding a way each day to deepen ourselves in this beauty of love, this column of grace that can reside in every one of us, that can emanate from our hearts. The season of Lent moves into what's known as Holy Week in the Christian household, retracing the steps of Jesus the Christ, our master teacher, who is preparing to give himself fully to this cause of love, universal love for all, even if it means giving up his own life at the hands of violence, at the empire's desire to snuff out that which is not of their way. And so our spiritual master, Jesus, is calling us in this season of Lent to be more deeply preparing ourselves to face everything we face each and every day in the places where we live, the pressures that surround us, the anxieties that arise from within, the desires sometimes that take us from being a person of love, the almost reactive ways we can conform to the ways of violence when we don't pause, collect ourselves, recenter ourselves in a commitment to nonviolence, in a commitment to the way of peace, which is the way of God. So this spiritual season of Lent is this, you might think of it as like a spiritual training ground to strengthen your muscles and to deepen your resolve and to expand your consciousness so that when those toughest moments of our days come, when we are stretched in ways that would want us to reactively respond out of anything but love, we have this bank of resources to call upon to allow us to remain in this place of love. I love to think about the season of Lent in that way. And so often we will talk about utilizing our time and our talents in ways beyond what we might normally do the rest of the year. Lent is this time where we can take up a new spiritual practice. If we have long been somebody who does mindfulness meditation, perhaps it's a time we want to undertake intercessory prayer, verbalizing the needs that we see around us and the needs of the world that are calling to our heart. If we typically are about a practice of yoga to get ourselves centered and to be this column of peace and uniting with our breath that is the force of life in all of us, then maybe it's time to take up something like a gratitude journal, being able to keep track every day in the season of Lent to where I kept myself centered, to what allowed me to come back to this column of love that can reside in every one of us, because it is the innate gift of God that is given to us all. So our practice today in episode 12 is actually going to come from an ancient practice that was developed by one called Saint Ignatian, but one that I find more accessible through the work of the Linns. Dennis, Sheila, and Matthew Linn have written this beautiful little book called Sleeping with Bread. Sleeping with Bread. Now, this is not a book that calls us to go to our kitchen and make up some fresh baked bread and then take it to bed with us. Sleeping with bread is this metaphor for truly lying down in peace at night, being able to be nourished in our spirits, allowing our souls to be opened for a beautiful night of rest. Sleeping with bread just really asks us two questions. The first question being, a modified version, I'll say, what brought me joy today? What really filled me up? What is there in my world or in this world for which I want to stop and give thanks? The other question has to do with what in Ignatian spirituality is called the desolation. The first question being the consolation, but the desolation being why or what pulled me off today? What happened today that caused me to feel outside of myself, to feel disturbed in my heart, to feel pulled out of a place of love? That would be that for which I might even want to spend some time in confession, in clearing from that, but also might want to spend a little bit of time in examination. Maybe I want to write a little bit about that, because I might begin to see a pattern day after day after day if I keep returning to that which pulls me off center, being that colleague that the way that they interact with me just really keeps me from being in a place of love. It might be time to examine and to look in the mirror and to see the way that colleague might actually be showing me something of myself that I don't want to notice. Sleeping with bread, these practices of desolation and consolation, are a way to even clear our conscience, if you will, a way to let go of that which might have happened in the day, an action that I might have done for which I am ashamed. And maybe it's time to just lay that down so I truly can begin the next day with a clean sheet, with a fresh start. Sleeping with bread is a great reminder that we're all in this journey. We continue in this time of getting up tomorrow and trying again, getting up the next day and trying again. So in this practice today, I'm going to just guide us through a time of preparing to sleep with bread, to preparing to focus on that consolation as I prepare to lay down my head and to truly rest in peace throughout the night. So you can listen to this podcast at night, or you can listen to this podcast and do this practice of sleeping with bread at any time throughout the day. Many people find this way of examining themselves, examining their day to be a helpful practice to do just right before bed. You can even do it as you are in bed before you close your eyes. You can just kind of filter through the day. And like, I really prefer to begin with the desolation because I want to end on that note of consolation and really have that gem, that gift of nourishment from the day to then be able to rest with all night long. So if you are in a place where you are able to do this practice right now, it's helpful to get your feet flat on the floor. But if you want to just lay down for a little bit, that might be a good experience as well for you. You might want to find a little patch of grass somewhere and just go lay down. Maybe take your yoga mat outside or just a blanket outside and just lay down, or be somewhere by a tree where you can truly get yourself centered and just deep breathe for a little bit. Or you can be wherever, just be in a place where you can have a few moments to just close your eyes. And if you are in a seated position, to just get your feet flat on the ground and take a deep cleansing breath from your belly, breathing out and in, releasing everything that needs to be released. And let's just begin with a focus upon the last 24 hours, if you can. Whatever point you're doing this meditation, if you want to start with what happened last night to this night, or what happened this morning to the next morning, but just if you can just sort of even tick off the hours in your mind if you'd like to, or just get a sense of like these last 24 hours. And you might focus for a moment on how did you spend your time in these last 24 hours? You might even just remember for a moment, with whom did you spend your time? Who was accompanying you on your journey these last 24 hours? Those who were known to you and those who are not known. And don't forget your little creatures, your little puppies, your little kitties, the birds that you might have around you. Just who accompanied you in these last 24 hours. You can even be paying attention to the places you might have been. Certain places can actually like pull us off center. Certain conversations can actually bring us down. We might have that friend that we love to visit with, but we end up getting really catty when we get together, and maybe we just need to pay attention to that and be noticing what's going on, and being a great gift to have a fabulous friend, but also just a reminder, like, maybe I don't like the way we interact with each other and the way we might be pulling others down when we get together. So we can just be thinking about the ways that we interacted with other people. Even the ways that we interacted with the world around us. Like, did I spend 24 hours in this last day neglecting my environment entirely? Was I aware at all of what was going on in my body? Did I notice if it was bright and sunny outside or if it was a downpour? What was happening in the ground under my feet? Did I ever even get my feet in the ground? Or did I just jump from one concrete sidewalk to a moving vehicle to another blacktop parking lot. Like, did I ever even get my body connected to this earth at all? If you want to just bring any of those awarenesses to mind. And as we're filtering through all of these aspects of these last 24 hours, let's begin to ask ourselves that question, that desolation. Let's ask ourselves, what took place in these last 24 hours that really bumped me out of my center, that pulled me out of place, that took me from being in a heart of love? So just want you to notice what comes up for you. No judgment about it. This is not a practice to judge yourself and to like really come down hard on yourself for messing up. This is just a practice to begin to notice, because we want to let that go. We want to set the intention that tomorrow is another day, and tomorrow, because I have been aware of this that has pulled me off today, tomorrow can be a day where I make a change, where I do something different. So let's just allow a little bit of quiet as we filter through these last 24 hours with that sense of what pulled me off, what disturbed my centeredness in these last 24 hours. Not whose fault it was, but just what it was that made that happen for me. You might just identify one or maybe two. And if you have a way to jot a note about this, that would be great. If not, don't worry about it. As you're kind of like mining through your 24 hours, maybe you've identified that little bit, or those two little things, or those two really big things that have pulled you off your centeredness. So if you could literally like visualize yourself cupping your hands around those, almost as if they are like jagged rocks, tenderly cupping your hands around those. And then have this sense that you are going to offer those to God, just like hand them over to God. You want to sleep with bread tonight. You don't want to sleep with these jagged rocks, these things of your desolation that pulled you from being your best self, your truly loving follower of the way of Christ. So just put those in your hands gently, tenderly, and offer those to God. Say, God, you got to take this. I need to let it go. Let's take a deep cleansing breath and release. One more deep cleansing breath and release. Maybe you can just see like the waters of the shoreline taking that debris of the day out into the ocean. Let it be filtered and transmuted by the power of the ocean, and allow it to become something else. And now is our time to open ourselves. As we have sifted through this day, we might want to kind of revisit our last 24 hours and to just for a moment take a little picture in our mind of that gem, that thing for which we give great thanks, that moment in which we experienced true connection, that episode in which we experienced great joy, where we might have felt deeply loved, perhaps from the inside out, or even by another. And just let's capture that moment of great consolation, that moment for which we give great thanks. This is the way we capture and are able to sleep with this beautiful gift of bread from this day. So just take a deep breath. Filtering through your last 24 hours. We're remembering the way we spent our time, the people, the creatures with which we might have interacted, the places that we were, the actual interactions themselves, how those might have gone. Just capturing those little gems of joy that we have experienced all throughout these last 24 hours. These little gems, I love us to just like throw our arms out wide and like bring them together, like comb these little gems together. Maybe there's only one. Hopefully you found at least one. Today, when I'm recording this, is a beautiful, bright, sunny day. And several of us were out taking little walks with our little furry, friendly creatures, our little puppies, our little poodles, as in my case. And so we just want to collect those beautiful gems and place them right inside of our heart space, right in the center of our chest. These will be the gifts of nourishment that will carry us into the next 24 hours, that will allow us this evening to sleep with this very nourishing gift of bread. These beautiful little moments, places, interactions, awarenesses, maybe even aware of the breeze on my skin, the great gift of this environment in which we live. We just want to like bring those into our heart space and allow them truly to rest there, to fill us up. If you can like imagine for a moment that your heart is actually like your stomach, you want to gather up all these precious little morsels that took place throughout the day, that you experienced throughout the day, and like feed your heart with those so that you feel truly nourished as you now pivot to what comes next, whether it's a night of rest, whether it's the start of a new day, whether it's a time you're going off to work, beginning your shift. Just allow yourself to take in all those great little morsels, tender little gifts given by God to you that you alone can give witness to, because they've been your experiences. It's your eyes that have seen these beautiful gems in the world. And so it is our own call to behold and to give glory, to just give great thanks for these amazing things that we've experienced. Whatever has filled you up with love and joy and peace, this is the way that God is living through you, that wants to experience God, the divine wants to experience this beautiful world through who you are, your personality, your history, your experiences, challenging though they may be. The divine desires experiential encounters through you. Take another deep breath. If you still have your hands on your heart, perhaps you are beginning to feel a warmth within. Perhaps you are experiencing a fullness coming inside. Another deep breath. Drink in this gift of fresh air and release. Return to the trees and the plants, all that they need for their ability to breathe in this world. Another deep breath. You receive from the plants and the trees all that they are giving to us, that they no longer need, that they offer as gift to us. And then we release back to our environment, back to the trees and the plants, all that they need. This way we're in this reciprocal relationship with all the world. Dear ones, as you enter into these days of Lent, even if you have never experienced or sought to observe this 40-day season that leads up to Holy Week and into Easter, I invite you to give it a try. Maybe this is a practice that you will find simple and very helpful to do every night as you prepare yourself to rest. Perhaps there's another practice that has been introduced in these past 12 episodes that you might want to incorporate more and more into your day. You can go back and listen to any one of them. But whatever it is, I hope that you will find a way throughout these next 40 days, plus Sundays. Sundays don't count as the season of Lent, but the 40 days of Lent plus the Sundays until we move into Easter, I hope you will find a way to continue to pause for peace. I hope you will notice now what you are experiencing within, because you have done this practice of preparing to sleep with bread, to be nourished from what took place in your life this day. I hope you will give great thanks as you lie down in peace this night. Blessings to you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Also want to remind you to be watching for Conversations for Peace, releasing soon, our monthly special series when I have a chance to sit down and talk to somebody. And our first person I had a chance to sit down and talk to, that beautiful conversation, is coming up soon. Look for it where you find Pause for Peace on the same channel, and we hope you will enjoy. Have a blessed, blessed week, dear one.